Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you, beautiful people? Today it is Two Chaps, Many Cultures, episode 118 on this wonderful, is it a Wednesday? I think it is. A couple of days before Christmas. Welcome, and we are talking about soft skills. Soft skills, are they really soft? Should they be considered hard skills? Are they hard at all? Are they hard to learn? We're going to learn from somebody today, actually. Stick around. Yes, welcome back to the show about the business of culture and the culture of business.
Good morning, dear sir. How are you?
Good morning, dear sir. Yeah, I'm very well.
Trying to get in the winter spirit, the Christmassy spirit. Am I succeeding? I don't know.
Yeah. You've gone kind of black and white. Black and white. You're doing the low profile Christmas sweater.
I guess my camera's not picking it up. It is blue. All right.
Blue. Oh, it's blue. Okay.
All it's right. Like the colors of my flag, but I'm digressing.
No, right. No worries at all. Welcome, everybody. Yes, it is another episode. If you like what you hear, please share it with your friends. Check out our YouTube channel, subscribe, and ding, set the little alarm so that you know when we're going live, which is every day, by the way. Well, every weekday. We're not going to bother you on the weekends, although we might.
We should do that, though. Huh, Brett?
We should, yeah, why not? Let's just add another couple of days because we don't do this. Yes.
We don't have anything else to do.
Absolutely. Let's do some more work on building some more skills, right? Soft or hard, right?
Well, when we talked about this topic, or when we got ourselves ready for this episode, you know how I have, like, my stomach turns and my toenails crawl when people talk about soft skills, because that term just gets me wrong every time. It's this, come on, people, they're not soft. Well, we're going to talk about this with somebody who knows a thing or two about this. But before we do that, also, as you subscribe to our channels, as you set the alarm, as you like us, because we're such a likable Two Chaps team, let us know in the comments, where in the world are you today? Where are you tuning in from? Maybe, have you wrapped all your Christmas gifts yet? Oh, man, that reminds me too. All right, I've got something ahead of me today. All right, so type in where in the world you are. Let us know where you're watching us from. And today we have somebody that I have had the pleasure of working with extensively this year, and he's my man to help me bust the myth of skills being soft. Welcome to the Two Chaps studio, Mr. Stephan Hild, straight from München. Servus, Stefan. We need to unmute him too. That's the quote of the year. You're on mute. Right, there you go.
Good morning. Good morning to the US. Good morning from Munich, Germany. Hello. Well, thanks for having me.
We got to show that he's really from Munich. Look at the jacket. See, that's what you call a 𝙏𝙬𝙤. Even the shirt underneath. Man, that guy's dressed up for us. Awesome.
You know that, Christian, don't you?
Well, we share a common hometown, or almost. Mm-hmm. See, this guy was born in Munich, I believe, right? You're a true Münchner, right?
Yeah, yes, I am.
I only moved there as an adult, which true people from Munich, they kind of look down upon us 𝙒𝙬𝙤, because we came in late to the party and we're not truly bred and born in the city of. But I'm from the same state, at least. All right. So.
And from the same part of the state. That's important too.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Stefan, tell our audience a little bit about what you do, and before we sink our teeth into the soft tissue that's not so soft at all.
Right. So again, thanks for having me this morning, or wherever you are on this planet, afternoon, evening. I'm Stephan. I'm from Munich, and I sometimes introduce myself as a passionate Municher, but a passionate global citizen at the same time. I'm blessed with parents who are very open-minded, who are very curious, and who traveled with me as a little boy already a lot. And that made me curious. And so I took the first chances to travel by myself. And the 16th year of my life, I spent in the United States, believe this. And that was a really great experience. Maybe some of my youth friends are even watching today. Great friendships I made for life, and great friendships I really cherished. And that international thing that kept accompanying me through my life, through my professional life. And I was always working in companies, always working very internationally, in various parts of the world, with people from various parts of the world. And I always loved that so much, but I always also realized that there is something that makes it a little bit tricky and difficult at times. And I wanted to dig deeper into this topic. So I got myself trained after working in companies for 25 years. I got myself trained as an intercultural trainer and coach and mediator and team coach, and all of this took me a while. And since 5 years, I quit my job in the company, and I do exactly that. I talk with people about culture, and I try to help them tackle their challenges, especially their business challenges that they are facing when working internationally. So that's what I do, Christian.
Nice. So that is a good segue, because you told us how you worked in the corporate context for more than 20 years. So what exactly were you doing? What were your quote unquote hard skills in corporate Germany?
Yeah, I got 2 degrees, one in business administration and the other one in environmental sciences. And all along, I was sort of in business development, in sales, key account management, and all of this. A lot in the environmental sector. And as you can imagine, environmental projects have a natural tendency of being global somehow. Yeah. So when you, for example, assess the capacity of a wind park in the Inner Mongolia, for example, or a biomass project in the Mato Grosso, then that's always completely international, because all the stakeholders would be from all around the planet.
Mato Grosso.
Weather is not climate, of course, but that's a famous saying, right? But does the butterfly wings really cause a hurricane the other side of the world? That is the big question, of course, when climate. But that's maybe for another time. I think.
Yeah, let's go into this. Probably, if you get me talking about this topic, then we will miss the other one.
Well, the reason why I asked this question, as we say in German, I came into the back door, or around the corner through the back door, because it's often viewed as having this strong subject matter expertise in whatever your profession is. That's often referred to as hard skills, right? So this is your core competency, and hard as being marketable, hard as being hard currency, hard as being critically relevant to do your job successfully and be good at what you do. And by naming other skills, soft skills, we put them in a corner or in a basket. Well, that's a nice to have, and maybe if I get around to doing it, perhaps I might potentially consider it, but do I really need it? It's soft. Right? Hard is more important. Soft is for the fuzzy people. And so I think Stephan, Brett, and I are three middle-aged white men. We are the very diverse panel here, tongue-in-cheek, making the claim that those are actually the so-called soft skills are the ones that make the hard skills work, right? So without your ability to efficiently communicate, to relate to others, to inspire them to do something, or to help them correct the course, or whatever it is you're doing in your communicative, quote unquote, soft approach, Without that, you won't be able to apply your harder subject matter expertise skills.
Absolutely. I mean, picture this like a mathematical equation, and the result will be something like a factor between whatever you bring as what you just described as hard skills, and multiply that with the entire set of soft skills, because otherwise it will not work at the end of the day. And if that's like smaller than 1, the result will decrease naturally. So this is a picture that I really like.
Now, when we talked about, hey, Stephan, are you coming on the show? What are we going to talk about? You said, well, let's talk about how these so-called soft skills are still viewed as optional or as negligible or often underestimated in a corporate context. So can you share some stories without necessarily naming the company, but if you want to, go ahead. Our lawyers are ready. Where you experienced that a company or client or maybe an employer really underestimated the ability for efficient communication.
Yeah, right. And remember when we discussed, I even mentioned that I assume a certain systematic underestimation of that soft skill topic. And so why would that be? I think there's a handful of reasons. And I think one is very basic. It's probably that people have wrong ideas about what soft skills are all about. Is it, for example, when we, look at intercultural trainings and intercultural competence, is it that we talk about the others? Is it that a trainer explains to an audience how those Americans are, or how those Germans are, or how those Indians are? If that is so, then, well, people might assume, okay, I might as well read a book or maybe a little PDF while I'm flying there, right? And that would be it. Yeah. I believe, or my experience tells me that in intercultural trainings, as a good example for soft skill trainings, we talk a lot more about ourselves. We look into ourselves. We explore our implicit thought patterns. We explore our interpretation of the world and our interpretation of the behavior of the others, because this is way more effective than little lists of properties of anyone around this globe. Yeah. So it may be a misconception of what this is all about. The other thing is also very basic. I think a lot of people have had simply bad experiences with that, because there's still a lot of trainings out there where it's all about do's and don'ts. For example, I'm telling you the 10 most important aspects, what you need to know when to work with the Americans, and that's it. Yeah, and people will find out that the real American that they meet next week, that the person is somewhat different, and it doesn't work. All right. So also this does not really contribute to a higher estimation of the entire topic. Let me give another example for this, not from the intercultural playground. The first time I was taught the thing about active listening. You know what active listening is?
Well, I'm curious to hear your definition.
I'm not giving you a definition. You can find it out. But when I was taught what active listening is, I thought, is this person trying to make a parrot out of me? You know, simply repeating what the other person said? I feel stupid. I feel awkward, because the person has failed to create the sense. What is it that I really need to do? Yeah, and it was a very mechanical, behavioristic, if you may, way of transferring some skill to another person. And it really didn't catch me. It took me years.
Like playground children mimicking each other's behavior, right? There's no deeper meaning behind it. It's just observe, copy, paste behavior, right? But not really letting the meaning of what we're listening to sink in and percolate before we.
And your counterpart will realize that and will react accordingly. And you try this once like this, and you will never try it again. So after a wrong conception of what soft skill trainings are all about. Bad experiences might be one of the reasons. Another thing is, especially with regards to cultural topics, that people are so stiff with respect for their very business they are running, the very factual aspects. For example, say we are in IT, we are all IT engineers, and this is what we are talking about, right? We are talking about architectures, and so what does culture have to do here? And I think this is entirely wrong, because I feel that culture even influences the architecture of IT. Think about
so the wrong or the false assumption then is that since we speak the common language of our trade, which will be IT or engineering or sales or whatever it may be. So in our industry or professional vertical, we have a common job language and job culture. So we don't need to talk about our other cultural differences, because what we have in common is our profession. So why would we have to think about cultural differences within our profession, right?
That's right. We would assume that the stuff we are working on is sort of culture-free, which may be true, because a 0 and a 1, or a sequence of zeros and ones, may be culture-free. But the way you handle your projects, the way you go into meetings, the way you discuss, the way you schedule, etc., all of this is tainted by culture a lot. And at the end of the day, what counts is that you get your business done, and you do your business with people, don't you? And so this is the other side of looking at the thing.
Well, one example I came across the other day was a team of people from a particular country, having observed that they bring some more critical thought to, and this was in the IT field. They said that their critical thought was interpreted by their counterparts in other parts of the globe as negativity. So they were being accused oftentimes of poo-pooing a project, saying why it can't work, why, bringing up the possible problems that arise. And that was interpreted to mean, oh, you just don't want to do it. And they said, it's actually not that we don't want to do it. We actually do want to do it, but we want to make sure that we have all the data, right? So these to me, that was an example of two different people from different cultures interpreting the exact same process. Because in the other culture, somebody coming along and bringing up 100 different ideas of what might go wrong might be interpreted as that you're just trying to put barriers up, so therefore you don't want to do it. So learning that is often important to say, so what is this person's motive, right? What is that? Interpreting that as a soft skill. I know my friend is using that term again, but interpreting that as a soft skill and understanding that let me ask at least, what is the motivation behind bringing up these objections or possible negative outcomes?
Absolutely. I really love your example, Brett. I'm wondering whether the counterparts of your coaches were Germans.
Well, no.
Just a joke. But, because Germans, it comes very lightly across our lips to say, ach, wissen Sie, das Problem ist, so the problem is, and it sounds in the ears of many people around this globe as if we would be slamming a door. We don't want to discuss any further. We sort of are convinced the thing won't fly because it can't work. I hear something different there. I hear my mind has found issues and already started to analyze these and like this. So when we say, the problem is, we're actually saying that we are in the topic. And this is
there's a linguistic discrepancy, right? So not every language has the same words to describe a mental state, right? In the German language, when we are faced with an issue, with a challenge, then we gravitate to the word problem because we like to fix problems, because we see that as a challenge. But to other ears, this may sound like, oh, a naysayer. Okay, so he doesn't want to be part of this, right? And this is just one example. Many other languages have similar linguistic nuances that create meaning conflicts, that create, or that are indicators of a different cultural approach to thinking. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so beside those aspects of maybe having made bad experiences, of having a completely wrong conception on the subject of soft skill trainings or intercultural trainings, besides that, the assumption that we are talking about something very clearly defined, KPIs or some engineering things, and these would have nothing to do with culture. I feel there's another great source of underestimation for the relevance of these topics, and that this I hear a lot from people in high positions, from CEOs and head of HR, etc. They would say stuff like, our employees, they are all older than 7. They are grown-ups, they are professionals, and why bother with these things? And you see the business is running, right? No major catastrophes.
Yeah. I like your. I just want to get back to your analogy. No, I don't. I'm known for not doing math live, right? People will lose an eye. But I think the analogy you mentioned earlier on about it is a multiplier, right? In mathematics, it's not just an addition. It's not just 1 + 1 = 2 and you're going to be okay. It's actually take those technical skills that you've got and add a multiplier. I think this is something I haven't used that concept before, but it is actually adding a multiplier. So taking your skills and adding that multiplier has bigger impact than just adding another soft part of your to your toolbox. I think that's a great analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks, Brett. And the thing here is that I heard this kind of statement a lot from people in very high positions, and those people usually led a quite international business life. They would travel here and there and have a telco with, I don't know, the US in the afternoon and already 1 in the morning with India or China. And they had no idea what was going on the floors of their own company 2 stories further down. And I only wish that they could, in German we say Mäuschen spielen, you can pretend you are a little mouse and you run around the corridors of your own company and then hear what people actually say, how they talk about the others, And even, when I look back to my 25 years of working in the corporate world internationally, how often have I heard people complain about those others, Oh no, not them again. Why can't they ever be like this? Oh, forget those, they will be never able to do this. Or, oh, they are so horribly, whatever. And I'm deliberately not naming anybody, and I'm also not telling the adjective, right? So, because the list is long. Some are arrogant, some have no sense of humor, some are unreliable, some are X, Y, Z. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter because there are systematic reasons for these misconceptions. Yeah. And this is something that you probably really underestimate when you are like in, I don't know, the highest floor in your CEO or whatever office and have no idea what exactly is discussed down there in the international project teams, for example. Yeah. And the other thing is that those people, they have no idea where in their corporation actually a functioning teamwork between different entities, say in the US, in Europe, in Asia, where in this architecture, a good corporation contributes directly to the value creation of the company. I think if they had this idea, they would pay much more attention to make the factor, Brett, the factor in front of the mathematical equation larger than 1.
Can I ask a quick question? so you talk about the upper echelons of the C-suite and things like this, which is when we get to those levels, we assume that the technical skills are then delegated to the actual people that do the work lower down. So do you get to a point where, are there any parts of these skills we talk about in cultural learning that can be delegated or should be delegated by a CEO as well? Or should they be really absorbed and practiced every day? You know, a CEO is not going to do the technical work to model that for his team. He understands that the people that he's got around him are technically adept. But what about these cultural skills? Do you feel that it is more important maybe when you get to those levels to actually model the skills that that it takes to be culturally competent?
That's it, Brett. Because those people, of course, they will never hire an intercultural trainer. They won't hire Christian, they won't hire you, they won't hire me. That's for sure. But they can role model, they can frame the whole topic. According to their talk, the people, for example, in the HR department will sort of set the frame of what's being offered in the company. And they have to release the budget, isn't it? I mean, not maybe directly, maybe this goes down a little bit stage-wise. But at the end of the day, the amount of attention that is given to these things, that for a functioning collaborative spirit across the different seats, across the different continents, the budget will determine what's happening and what's not happening. That's for sure.
So do we need to find a better word then, if we all agree that soft skills isn't furthering our agenda or is not helping anyone who needs them? I found a few alternatives that I've been using interchangeably. Do we as practitioners in the field do we have to come to an agreement that this is the term that we're going to use? So in our little paragraph to announce this program, we call them global skills, right? So would that be the term? Do we call it something else? What's been your experience, Stephan?
Can you repeat? There was a little disturbance when you mentioned the term.
Global skills.
Global skills.
On our little slide here. Is that the word that we're using? Do we use? I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Maybe we use other terms.
I like global skills. On the other hand, my experience is that when you mention global skills to 5 people, there will be 5 different ideas what the guy is talking about. So that might be a bit deceiving. I've heard things like essential skills. I've heard things like really a base skill set for global collaboration. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more complex. But yeah, let's start the search for a good terminology, and maybe our listeners also contribute to this. Already, yes. Christian and Brett, you invited the audience to chat and to communicate with us as well. I think that would be a good thing. Absolutely.
Yes. I'm going to throw in another phrase that I've heard and used over the course of the last couple of years: power skills. I've also heard, and I'm not quite sure if I like those, but I heard people skills and human skills. So there's a lot of there's other people have thought about this, and we're not the only ones who are questioning the terminology of soft versus hard. So there's a few suggestions floating around, and as you said, Stephan, it could mean different things to different people, and it may not be inherently clear what these new terms are referring to. While you were talking about the equation, which immediately triggered a positive response with me, I was digging on my computer here for an equation that I created a while ago. So let me bring this into our little. Let me remove the banner here. So I created an equation, and don't ask me to do math, because Brett and I that's not our strength. But I collect a group of skills in the term ICE-Q. That's my personal thing. So I'm combining IQ, your subject matter expertise, your factual knowledge, with CQ, your cultural intelligence, and your EQ, your emotional intelligence. So together, the brain, the mind, the heart, and your global competencies, they together create what I call 𝙈𝙬𝙤, and they are, as you can see, a factor in the equation of your global growth. And this is simply one, albeit oversimplified version of an equation. There are many more factors that we might add to this, but for simplicity reasons and for graphic reasons, I reduced it to those factors. Without having a strong number of 𝙈𝙬𝙤, whatever that may be, we have to talk about this. All of your business opportunities, all of the great deal values that you're hunting for or chasing or actively working on will be subject to a longer learning curve or a higher failure rate, and therefore your global growth will be negatively affected, right? So that's my version of creating an equation and including the skill set that we advocate for, right?
I really like this, Christian, because right in a very prominent spot on that equation, I saw a brain and a world and a heart. You know? Mm-hmm. And I believe that one of the reasons for the systematic underestimation of soft skills is that we underestimate how emotional we are, irrespective of the fact how old we are, how well paid we are, how experienced, how well trained we are, etc., etc. And this has to do with our brains, as you showed beautifully in that image. Because, you know, our brain is wired, by the way, the most of our neuron connections in our brain are established while we grow up. And where do we grow up? In the cradle of our own culture, isn't it? So mind this. Anyway, our brain is wired, and our brain has certain capacities. Anyone who has read the book Thinking Fast and Slow of Daniel Kahneman will know that we don't analyze what's going on around us only through our cognitive mind, which is right here behind our forehead, right in the cortex. In a way, in the same way that we, for example, solve complex problems, in the way we solve mathematical equations. No, a lot of processing of what's coming into us through our eyes and ears or through our email inbox is processed with our intuitive mind, a very central part. It's called the limbic system. And this intuitive mind is directly connected with our emotions. And people usually don't really like that thought because they like to believe that they are so professional, so experienced, so grown up, etc. And why would their interpretation of what's going on be tainted by emotions? Let me tell you, it is. Mm. It is. And I mean, if you react strongly to an email you get from somewhere and react directly, the damage you may make may be significant. And this is for me exactly the secret behind our topic today.
Yeah, that's interesting because some cultures we teach are low on the emotional scale, expressiveness, for example, and sometimes that's interpreted as maybe aloofness, maybe I don't care. I don't care about this enough to show my emotion around it. Well, other cultures are it's taught that you express your emotion, you express your passion through physical or vocal emotions. But you're right. What's going on behind what might be a low emotional facade is still that same limbic system taking over and interpreting or influencing the way people respond. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically,
Christian. No, go ahead.
Basically, it's our intuition. And actually, intuition is something marvelous. It's an amazing thing. Our intuition helps us a lot to navigate through life with ease. The only thing is, it doesn't always work, because our intuition is good in circumstances that are familiar to us somehow. There we can almost blindly navigate through life. But our intuition sometimes puts us onto wrong tracks. And not being aware of this, not checking twice, not breathing deeply before I react. This may, in the professional context, cause a lot of damage. And but these things you can only find out if you really give yourself, or maybe your team members or whatever, a little time to explore this. And this is my view on what soft skill trainings are really all about. It's not like training a rabbit, or in the example I gave earlier, training a parrot, but it's a very, very deep way of looking into ourselves, into our implicit thought patterns, into our reaction patterns, etc., in order to become even more professional, right? So in that way, again, it becomes visible that through the so-called soft topic, we may even increase the level of our hard skills. Or
our wives might say training a husband.
like that.
I'm not sure where this all began. This may be a result of industrialization of our societies, like 150, 200 years ago. This may be a result of the movement of enlightenment, when science started explaining to us what's going on in the world around us, that we didn't have to rely on beliefs or superstitions any longer. So when we had empirical data and facts to explain certain phenomena to us. So we as humans across the world, in many cultures, we want to, as you said, Stephan, we want to be in control. We believe that our conscious mind is controlling our environment to whatever degree. And there are varying degrees in many cultures, but overall, we're humans. We created the world around us. I just read last week or 2 weeks ago that every structure, all the matter that humans created on this planet, every building, everything we built that's human-made, the mass of that is bigger than the rest of the mass found on this planet, right? So we are shaping this planet for better or worse. So we are in control of our environment with our conscious mind. However, then our educational system reflects that. We are trained to use our conscious mind, have excellent cognitive skills. But what we're not trained in is trusting our intuition and following the emotional side of our being, which has been with us for thousands of years, as long as we have been Homo sapiens sapiens, right? So, and even before that. So in a way, we could say that the quote-unquote soft skills are our ancient skills that we buried somewhere under the cognitive veil of world domination. I don't know, I'm being a little bit exaggerated here, but I think we've lost something of our humanity by focusing solely on what our brains can accomplish.
Makes a lot of sense to me. So, and
no, I think that this is a great point, right? Yeah. So because you can see this rooted back to conflict, right? Because we're taught to think scientifically. So therefore our version of the science means that it's right? Our way is right. And the other way is wrong. So it conflict has been around for as long as humans have been on the planet. But I think that has kind of exponentially added that kind of factor to the ability for or the way that we take what facts we have in a technical way and assume that what we have is right, and then our brain kind of throws that and discombobulates that and says, hang on, there's these emotions going on and I'm trying to tamp them down. Some cultures, emotions are told, we're told to tamp them down, keep calm, show our emotional intelligence, right? Exactly. So it's kind of like, why be so emotional? But yeah, the intuition part of it is listening to that intuition and going, okay, something seems not right here, so I need to bring it into my executive function in some degree, but I also need to interpret how my limbic system is making me feel right inside. And how do I address that? And how do I then reach out to the other person and see if they're feeling the same way? What effect is my actions, my behavior having on their ability to do their job? Yeah.
Yeah, and what you're describing is it requires a lot, because it's a very mindful way of looking at ourselves as we go along, as we go through our days or working days, in the company, for example, but also privately in our private life. A very mindful way of reflecting what's going on. I'm deeply convinced that this can avoid a lot of harm and can do a lot of good if we can practice. And I don't believe that this can be started like this and then it works for the rest of our lives. I think it's a very gradual process that we have to learn, experience, learn again, experience. So that's something that grows over time. But I believe that at some point, the seed must be, how do you say, sown or planted or whatever. At some point you have to start. At some point you have to start looking a little bit more consciously on what's going on.
Well, let's go back to your original. You started describing your experience early on, right? We had this experience with our guest yesterday, Jules Sheldakar, who, from an outside, from an American point of view, was exposed to a culture very early in life that really did trigger something in her about a passionate curiosity about what goes on behind the veil of the Indian culture, right? And now married to somebody from that culture and now living there. So this is kind of, we call maybe a travel bug, that's the physical action of traveling, but also the emotional and let's call it the spiritual, let's call it the whatever level. Those things can affect us as much. It's like when people practice and have the exposure to working with different people from different cultures, this is building on top of one another. Again, using that kind of idea of factoring and multiplying through
I wish that experience only could do the job. So travel more and you will acquire a lot more soft skills. I don't believe that this can work. I have met many people who have traveled to 1,000 countries, and the only thing is that they are full of stereotypes. They know everything. They know how the Americans tick, and they know the people from Saudi Arabia, and they're full of stereotypes and haven't ever bothered to dig deeper, to really understand, and so on. So it takes really both. It does take the experience, but it also takes the reflection and this digging deeper approach, this asking approach. I really like this attitude of looking at the world and looking onto other people with a very curious mindset, with a more asking mindset. I think that's the trick.
Yeah, well, I think we all know people that have traveled to many countries, and all they've done is used it as a tool to affirm their biases.
Yeah, right.
They haven't really dug in and experienced the culture. They've just gone to say, well, now I know I'm really superior.
There's a dualism that one of my mentors years ago taught me, that if we want to be successful in our context, whatever we do, and he used an explanation of political leaders or leaders of greater organizations, we need to have the balance of expertise and humanity. So, and he used a few U.S. presidents to highlight how they were successful or not successful because they only had one of each. So, Barack Obama was very high on expertise, right? So you listened to the man and you thought, okay, this guy has some brains, some big brains, and he knows what he's talking about. He's competent. He knows how to talk. This is a man with a lot of expertise. His humanity may have been there, but it didn't override his expertise. So when people who appreciate competence heard Obama or saw Obama speak, they were often drawn to him because of that. The humanity said, he didn't really address the problem of racism in the U.S. for various reasons, but that was what a lot of people had wished for. That didn't happen. And then you look at the outgoing current president, who is, well, the opinions are split wide and far, but I think most people would agree that his expertise may not be his strongest suit, right? I'm talking about the president that's going to be in office for only 28 more days. I'm counting down, if you haven't noticed. But his humanity, his ability to connect with a certain part of the populace, a big part of the populace, is incredibly high. That's what made him so successful, right? So we need to have both in a good balance. We need to have our conscious mind, our intelligence, our human art skill in balance with our humanity side, with our heart, with our intuition, with our, all right then, soft skills for this episode. But we want to find both. And I think for me, it has been a journey of discovery while I'm maturing in age. So when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I thought all that matters was my expertise. All that matters was my hard skills. That will get me ahead in life. And I completely negated the other part. And it took me many years to come to terms with it and unearth what's been shoved down. And I'm just one example out of, I don't know, 8 billion around the world. But I'm curious if this is a male thing, if this is a thing of my German heritage, of my socioeconomic context. I don't really know. I simply recognize it for myself that if we're suppressing that which could be our soft skills, our global skills, human skills, power skills, whatever we want to call them, I'm not a complete human being, and I'm only becoming that as I'm realizing that.
Mm-hmm.
So can I have you comment on something, Stephan? This is interesting. I think I want to pick up on this. Somebody goes through life just being taught that their technical skills are the most important thing in their life, right? They have, this is their identity, this is their ability, their training, the things that they can apply and make money with, right? Let's call it that. They gather resources through the exercise of their technical skills. They do that and they go through the life, right? And then they get to a certain point where they retire. They think, okay, well, now I've worked hard, I've applied my skills, I've been successful. And then there's a gap in their life, right? Then they get up every day faced with, having to interact with people that are in the same situation. And so do you think that this is one way to I guess sell the idea of being emotionally intelligent, is look forward to the point where you don't actually practice your technical skills every day? And then you don't want to get to a point in life where you feel that you're unfulfilled, or you're not practicing your skills and you're not using your technical skills. So therefore your life might feel empty if you don't have these emotional skills to then apply to whatever travel you want to do when you retire, the other people you interact with when you retire, and that kind of thing. I don't know. Well, maybe it's a bigger conversation. I'm just kind of processing. There's a lot of things kind of, I'm my small brain is trying to turn over here, but I don't know. Do you think that's a way of trying to sell this, Stephan?
At the end of the day, allowing people to sit down, learn something, to reflect something, it always costs money. Even if people like you, Brett, and Christian, and me would do that pro bono, it still costs a lot of money, because it would take these people out of their daily business process for 1 day, 2 days, 5 days. So the big question is, why would anybody pay for that? It is something that I would wish for anybody, having a chance to really, in a very relaxed way, learn more about ourselves, learn more about the others, learn to communicate, all of this. That would be beautiful. But I don't really see the case for all of these people, and especially the people where I understood that you talk about. They might be able to go through life without any problem, simply focusing on their technical skills. They didn't need to negotiate anything with anybody, because their expert role was simply enough. And you're right, those would probably face some issues once they are retired. And picking up on that, the reason why we discuss the corporate world is that in the corporate sector, there are plenty of teams, departments, individuals in the corporations where their soft skills are so important that they contribute to the result,
the bottom line,
the earnings of the company. And then it's an investment to dedicate time and to dedicate money to help these people grow their people skills. I wish that would be available for anybody.
Yeah, I do too. For not only for selfish reasons, but for I think business outcomes will change if our organizational structures become better balanced between expertise and humanity. If the people skills are better developed, because organizations who are well equipped with that follow different goals. They stop following monetary financial goals only. They will add a purpose and a mission to what they're doing, and usually that would be one that supports the society in which they're placed, right? So, my hope is that that the younger generations coming into leadership positions, that now the millennials have entered the leadership realm, and the Zs are going to be next. And I see it with my children. I see it with the millennials I've had the pleasure of working with. Many of them base their decision making on different value systems than us Xers or the baby boomers, because what's important to them is there a purpose aside from the business objective? Is there more mission behind what we do rather than making money? Do we do good somehow? Do we create a positive change for people? As this mindset is permeating corporate culture, that's my hope. That's my naivete. I don't know. As this mindset is permeating the corporate world, we may see a shift away from focusing on hard skills only.
You want me to react?
Go ahead.
In German, we would say "Dein Wort in Gottes Ohr." So, yes. May your word be heard by God. I definitely also hope that this will, like a grassroots cultural change, change organizations as well. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist. There are certain thought schools who assume that the structural component, the system it's such, it influences culture irrespective of the people who are in that system. And the question is, the big question, if, say, a handful of young millennials join a company, they would be able to join that organization, to change this organization, the organizational culture, etc. Or a couple of them would become absorbed by that system, would become absorbed by that structure they find, while others would say, okay, that structure, that culture doesn't really suit me, I leave. This is something I couldn't really answer, but I share your optimism with regards to the values and the outlook on life of that young generation. Absolutely.
I'm going to out myself here as a Star Trek fan but some may be familiar with Star Trek Next Generation, when there is a species that enters the storyline. They're called the Borg, and they assimilate everything around them, and resistance is futile. Let's hope that the corporate world is not the Borgs, that our humanity still has the power to override the corporates. But we're totally digressing. Well, not totally, but we're digressing a little bit. My hope for this outgoing year and for 2021 is that the systematic underestimation of the skills that we're talking here about will slowly fade away, and that a lot of people will have learned through this challenging year that our humanity is what keeps us alive. Our humanity, our people skills, soft skills, global skills, human skills, power skills are the skills that keep a society together, that help us facilitate change, and that we will use our subject matter expertise for good, based on our intuition, based on our humanity. That will be my wish for the next year. Now, I got you speechless again.
There's nothing more to be said.
Where can I sign?
Yeah. All right, guys. This was lovely. I love these kind of conversations. Three middle-aged white men wearing glasses, having facial hair. This is such a diverse crowd. We should do this again.
I do think I should have worn my glasses like Stephan. It's very, very close with the glasses here. Yeah, so
you know, I can Brett, I can teach you how to see the world through German eyes, you know.
No, right.
Oh. We have ways to make you see it's a German way.
I thought they're supposed to be rose-colored glasses. They're not rose-colored glasses.
No. You will see through the darkness of the black bar on the top of it.
Very good. This is great. Thank you very much, Stephan. This has been fun. Great conversation, worthy of more, but unfortunately we're out of time. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Please add your comments, and tell us your version of what the definition of, or an alternative version of, soft skills is for you. We'd love to hear. Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure.
Wonderful holiday season, Stephan. Thanks for joining us. Keep Munich weird, and we'll see you all again tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Ciao, schöne Weihnachten, Happy Christmas. Bye.
Bye.